And we always find the good in things. And you got a visitor that came to visit you.
Yeah.
A woman by the name of Laura.
Yes, who is now goes by the name of Laura Lee Flanagan.
And she had interviewed you for what website?
She had a website called NewYorkNatives.com, and they did a lot of stories and about things happening in the city and interesting people and this and that and blogs and stuff. And she interviewed me as a native icon because you wouldn't know it from looking at her or by her career. I mean, she's a lawyer. She's from the Upper East Side. She's amazing, and she used to be into hardcore for a brief moment in her childhood. So she knew of the Cro-Mags. She had seen us play, and a friend of hers, she did a story on C Squat, a squat that I used to live in, and it was a really good story. It was very interesting, and one of the people she spoke to around that time said, "You should speak to Harley. He used to live there, and he'd be interesting for you to interview." And she pursued it, and we started talking. We did the interview, and I started sending her some chapters of this book that I was still working on at the time. And I don't remember how exactly it came about. I mean, she has a PhD, and she's done a lot of writing and stuff in her life and a lot of editing and stuff. And she really enjoyed the book, and I needed some help in the editing. I mean, I have a 7th grade education, so the book was basically one sentence when I gave it to her. There was. She
gets the award for editing challenges.
No shit. I mean, it was one.
When I met her tonight, I was like, "Yeah, you edited the book," and then because I was an English major too, and we had a moment of I gave her a moment of mutual respect and admiration for her efforts.
You don't know how much she needs. I mean, this book it's like 300 pages. It would have been 1,000 pages. Dang. And it was, like I said, it was one sentence. and we literally had to we've got 10 stories about fighting now. Can we lose these other 20? Okay, we've got 10 stories about almost overdosing. Can we lose the other 30? Okay, we've got, so there was I mean, it would have been a fucking endless book. I mean, right. I took a lot of fights and a lot of drugs and a lot of rock and roll dumbness and just a lot of actually good stories. Didn't make it in, But I think we got left with a pretty good picture of everything. Everybody. It's actually funny because when I had the book signing, a lot of people that I went to school with in 5th and 6th grade from my neighborhood showed up, and they were like, "Dude, you nailed it, man! You described the neighborhood so perfectly." And the funny shit is actually one of the hitmen, the guys from my block, was at my book signing, and I actually asked him. I was like, "Dude, who the fuck was Pigman?" And he's like, "Oh man, that was Crazy Eddie." And Crazy Eddie was a brand of PCP we all used to smoke back then, so I'm sure that's why he got the nickname. But he's like, "Yeah, man, he's got an auto body shop now, grandkids, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Word," I'm like, "What's up?" I said, "What's up?" But it was funny because literally, all that actually mattered more to me than the reviews of the book was when I had people who shared those experiences and people who grew up in the neighborhood. I mean, even more so than the Cro-Mags parts of the books, the people who were like, "Yo, you fucking nailed it, man. This is exactly what the city was like. I try to tell people all the time and they don't get it. So I bought them a copy just so they could fucking see for themselves." That was when I knew that I nailed it. That was it, There was a couple publishers that didn't want to put it out. They were like, "Yeah, we can't touch this shit."
Yeah, no, I can imagine. You know how your wife had to lose 20 fight stories, and I had to do for this podcast. I got rid of it. We discussed a fraction of the crazy shit that's in here.
No, I mean, we haven't even touched. I mean, we could sit here and talk for the fucking till tomorrow, and
but I do. The book gets it across, and that's why. Like I said, I thought I was familiar with the hardcore scene, and factually, I mean, I went to CBGB's, I don't know, hundreds of times when I was a kid, and all shows all over the East Coast, Boston.
Yeah.
But I still didn't recognize that there was this much chaos. And speaking of chaos, I'm going to go back to the book here. You're sitting in jail, and here we go. Because of all the people talking shit and trying to frame me, the record label I just signed with was having second thoughts. Everything was coming to a head, and now I had to prepare for a court date, facing 4 felony counts of second-degree assault and weapons charges for biting and stabbing people. If there was ever...
And I teach the kids.
If there was ever a time that I was about to lose my shit, I'd have to say it was around this time. If there was ever a time someone would relapse into drugs, alcohol, or some self-destructive shit, it was a time like this. I actually went out and got drunk a few nights, which I hadn't done in a long time. I was really depressed. I was really at the bottom. I could have easily spun out of control, but I said to myself, fuck that. I'm not going to let myself go and do that to myself or my kids, or give in and give the satisfaction to my enemies. I'm a black belt. I have more control than that now. I'm not who I once was. I'm stronger than that. And then the next court date, I wound up getting an adjournment again because they didn't have a case against me, and again it got pushed back while the DA continued to try and build it, until finally in December of 2012 they contacted my lawyer and said to appear in court on Friday, December 14th, when the entire case was dismissed.
Yeah.
And yeah, you at that point, you know, you kind of get back on track.
Yeah.
And you're teaching jiu-jitsu, like you said. And there's a good quote here when you're teaching jiu-jitsu after you had the incident at Webster Hall. And one of the parents said, you know, so here he comes back to start teaching the kids class again after he's been all over the front page of all the papers and stuff.
Everybody's looking at me like, oh shit. You know, I walked in the academy and like half the people were like super happy to see me, and the other half looked at me like like a gunslinger just walked in. Like I was like, you know, fucking Wild West.
One of the moms was quoted as saying, "Well, at least I know my kid isn't getting taught jiu-jitsu by a pussy."
Yeah, that was fun. That fucking made Henzo laugh.
And yet, there's still hard times because at this point you're losing custody of your kids.
Yeah,
and that was, you know,
that's, you know, I got to tell you, I mean, that has been the biggest trial and tribulation I've dealt with, and obviously I've dealt with many, but you know, especially someone who didn't really have responsible people like really raising me. You know, it really hurts to not be there for your kids every day, you know, because I used to cherish those moments more than anything. I mean, just walking them to school in the morning and the little conversations we would have on the way to school, and, you know, taking them to jiu-jitsu. And, you know, I really was the main caretaker. I was with them all day, you know. I did everything with them, took them to the parks, to museums, to this, to that, and to then have that taken away, it's difficult to not start fucking up, you know, especially when you're, you know, dealing with depression and all that shit. And again, you know, it's just like I said, you know, when you don't have someone to love and to feel that reciprocation, and you don't feel needed. It's hard to not feel needed, you know. But I went through all the process of family court and this and that, and you know, unfortunately, they don't live with me full time, but I see them a lot, and you know, everybody knows who's been through a divorce and has kids. Fortunately, I was never married to their mother. Hallelujah. But anybody who's been in that situation knows it's not easy, and it comes with a lot of challenges. And so now my challenge is to try to be involved with my kids' lives as much as I can, and to try to give them some moral guidance and manhood guidance from a distance, you know. And sadly, they did see, you know, me and their mother act like complete and total savages towards the end of the relationship, because people, when they break up, they typically don't know how to act or behave, even in front of their kids. So, but you know what? Even all of this has made me a stronger and wiser person, because I feel that it has, again, forced me to look at myself and you have choices in every situation, how you're going to react and how you know, what you're going to do. And now I really think about the consequences of everything. I know I can't just react explosively if somebody does or says something to me on the street, because I know that could cost me my freedom. It could cost my kids their father. It could cost my wife her husband. So, you know, even losing my kids has been a learning experience that I hope, God forbid they ever, you know, wind up with kids and separated and this and that, but hopefully even this bad stuff can help them become better men and smarter men, and hopefully better, smarter than I was, you know. And I try to believe really that in the end love wins, you know.
Yeah.